Hey guys, Matthew. In today's video, I'm going to bring you guys the update and recap of my first day of my Zero to Hero. So for those who don't know, every single league, when the league starts to slow down, I do this series called a Zero to Hero where I start on a fresh account with absolutely no currency, no characters, no nothing, and I work my way up to a certain goal. So I can be a headhunter, a mirror, or this league it could be even a mage's blood. But typically what I do is I do one method from beginning to end, but this time I decided to keep it a little bit more interesting for myself and hopefully for the viewers as well, is to basically make different phases. So we're going to have the phase of like 0 to 50x, then 50 to, let's say, a headhunter, and then let's say a headhunter to a mage's blood or something like that. And then after that, we're going to restart with a new character. The idea is to showcase multiple methods of making currency at different points in a league, so be it, around the middle of the league at this point when things start to really slow down, and showcase that even if you league start late, even if you don't have that much time to play, you can I guess you could say achieve in different things in this game, such as a headhunter or whatever your dream build might be, as long as you keep it realistic to your playtime. Of course, if you can only play an hour a day, that's only 30 hours in a month and 90 hours in a league. It's very limited compared to somebody who plays even just 2 or 3 hours on average a day, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. But I do think that pretty much even the most casual players can get a headhunter given a league's time if they know what they're doing. And my goal is basically to teach you guys how to do that. All right, so let's talk about the recap of what happened so far, because we're 1 day in. And basically, we don't have a whole lot to show for it yet, but that's because we're not focused on making currency for now. We're focused on getting some levels and finishing up our Atlas. Right now, of course, the new Atlas makes things quite a bit easier, but let's talk about how we got to where we are, because we are pretty much about an X.5 to 2X away from being basically completely ready to farm endgame. And when I say endgame, I mean like invitations and Maven and Cyrus and all those juicy bosses, because Seismic Trap is absolutely busted. So what I decided to play for this Zero to Hero is actually my league starter. You can check out my past videos. There's one called Seismic Trap, and this is exactly what I'm playing. So the cool thing about league starting late, and the cool thing about doing one of these challenges a little bit later on in the league, is that things are really cheap, right? These cold iron points, which would have cost me more than an exalt per each of them, in a league start scenario, cost me about 5C to 10C right now, and there's a ton of them available. And a Skin of the Lords, which would have cost me maybe multiple exalt in a league start, cost me 15C, right? It's very, very easy to find out, essentially what you should be using on your character and essentially gear and stuff later on in the league, because what happens is things become super cheap because they fall out of favor, right? It's no longer the flavor of the month to play Seismic Trap. Right now, everybody's worried about Magic Find, so they're rerolling characters and they're selling out their stuff, and they are selling it for super, super cheap. And because of the Crangle mechanic, people are crangling items and therefore reducing the value of them to basically nothing, and then they are selling them, such as, for example, see this Cold Iron point here, 5C instead of 1X. So that's pretty much what happened. Now, the entire value of my entire character is not much. I mean, these jewels cost me about 5C each, and I have 3 of them. So that's about 15C on my entire tree. No cluster yet. Quick tip on the cluster that I did here is I bought a 9 passive instead of an 8 passive. Sure, it's going to cost me 1 more point on my POB, but instead of costing me an exalt for the base, it cost me 1C. Right? So there's a lot of these like little tips and tricks that you can learn along the way of this Zero to Hero and apply to your own game. And then, of course, increase your ability to basically make your character strong enough to do certain content with, minimal drawbacks. Like in here, for example, I'm losing 1 passive point. Sure, that sucks. But it cost me 1C, right? Which is like extremely, extremely cheap. So that's definitely one of the tip when it comes to large passive clusters. If you can't afford the 8 passives, just go with a 9 passive. It's 1 point and it's not that big of a deal. Now, in terms of gearing my character, most of the rares that you see here, most of the items, period, were just a few chaos. The rings, a couple chaos. The amulet, a couple chaos, right? Very, very cheap. Matter of fact, if you want to see and learn a lot about how to go about gearing your character and essentially how you go about min-maxing your filters when you're looking for specific items on your character, I would highly recommend you check out my VOD from yesterday when I geared this character. Because I was going from an item that would cost me 20, 30C and then reducing one thing a little bit and increase increasing something else a little bit to where my player power would be roughly the same, but all of a sudden the item would cost 1 or 2 chaos. And that's what you need to learn in order to basically gear a character on a budget to where it costs you very, very little, and there's really very little drawbacks. Kind of the same thing like I was saying with the cluster. Now let's talk about how I started making currency, because I started with absolutely nothing. So I was pretty lucky on Act 4 Malachi, the boss of the act. I dropped a Primordial Eminence, which is worth about 2 to 3 C, but I got lucky twice, because not only did he drop me a decent unique, it was actually really well rolled. It had perfect attack and cast speed and 950 plus armor, if I remember correctly, which, as you can see, is worth 10 plus chaos, which is pretty huge. Now, I could have decided to sell for about 10 chaos, and maybe it would have taken a few hours, maybe it would have taken a day. So what I decided to do is, no, I'm going to try to get rid of it as fast as possible. So I put it for 5C, and within 5 minutes it was sold. Now, you might be wondering, yeah, but you just lost half your money. But the thing is, I was able to take that 5C and make more money out of that 5C than I would have made if I just sold the jewel for 10C within a day. And what I did is I went to Cleanser of Sins. Now, one thing that if you really want to take home anything from this video, it's this. When you are looking to buy items, when you're looking to certain things that you need in this game, you really want to weigh your options, right? Because if I say, oh, I need a tabula, the first thing you think about is, I'll just buy a tabula, right? Well, a tabula is 8 chaos right now, same price of a divine, but a Cleanser of Sins Prophecy is 3C. So you can see that there's a pretty big margin of profit in terms of returns of investment here. You buy this for 3C, you do the prophecy, which is completely free, because it's actually done in the actual, in the campaign. It's done in the Scepter of God in Act 3. You drop a tabula, which is, worth about 8 chaos. You can vendor it for a divine, sells faster than a tabula does. And then you basically make a profit of 5C, which, well, you can just do the same thing again. You can buy another Cleanser of Sins, do it again, then buy another one, and do it again. That's kind of what I did. I did it 3 times. 1 time in order to have a tabula for myself, and then 2 more times in order to have the 5C profit on each, which allowed me to buy my 2 cold iron points. Basically, before I even was finished with maps, I had 2 cold iron points, or at least the currency for them, waiting in my stash. And then the rest of the gear was bought out, basically with just remainder of currency that I had made along the way. And I bought everything when I hit level 70 and around, I think, T2 or T3 maps. So pretty early stage. And now this is the character that I'm going to be rocking all the way through, the Atlas, right? So we're starting with, again, a brand new Atlas. So we're not going to make too much currency while we set everything up, because all we care about is basically getting levels and getting these watchstones and getting your Atlas, ramped up. So that's kind of going to be the goal for today. So there's not much that happened in the first day. Again, like, what you want to take home from the video is either check out the VOD if you want to learn how to gear a character on the cheap, and, for minimal drawbacks. And then, of course, weighing your options, right? I could have just said, oh, I can't buy a tabula. I'm just going to have to deal with it. I'm not going to get a tabula. It's not the end of the world. But instead, I look through prophecies, I look at my options. You can just go on the wiki, type in whatever item you need, and then look at the options that you have in order to get that item, and then go from there. So the tabula was very, very cheap. It cost me 3C, and then I made, some chaos, some profit as well, and then I did this a few times. And as you can see, there's quite a few of these, and even at 4C, right, you could live search these for 3 or 4C, and then you pick them up whenever they pop up. I'm not saying this is going to make you rich at all. It's just about weighing your options, especially in an early game when you have nothing to play with, right? You literally have nothing, and every little chaos that you can get here or there is a massive upgrade to your net worth, and also a massive upgrade to your character, because you can put in some better gear on it, which allow you to farm better content. Now, last thing, in terms of the character, I'm playing my League starter, Seismic Trap. But one change that I made is, a lot of people are saying, oh, this build is squishy, this build is squishy. Well, the thing is, yes, it is, but at the same time, it does a ton of damage. So what I did is I just took out Pride from the build, and I put in Determination instead. And this is what I'm going to rock until I get to actual bosses, Cyrus, Maven, whatever it is, right? And then when I get to those bosses, I'm going to turn off Determination, put in Pride, and I'm going to use Pride for the damage. But for mapping, your damage is so crazy already, there is no reason to use Pride. As long as you have, 2 cold iron points and a tabula, you're basically set. I mean, you probably don't even need those, but those are obviously going to be pretty good. And with the current prices, it's affordable to anybody. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the day one recap. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Before I go, I do want to say a huge thank you to my supporters. So Kat, Stan, Brandon, Tim, Scott, Axel, Thomas, Reese, Rascorial, The Great Master, Mercury, Nake, Max, Alex, Johnny, Wolverine, Hamad, welcome back, and Georgie, as well as Nailed, Alex, Kevin, Alex number 5, as well as Bison, anybody else who supported me in the past, and anybody else who wishes to remain anonymous. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to the next episode. They'll definitely be a little bit more exciting than the first one. And I'll be catching you guys in those ones. Peace.